My name's Arthur. Thank you for joining me as we continue to read in Deuteronomy chapter 28. 14 verses describe the blessings of Israel when they obey the word of God. But the remaining 50-odd verses deal with the consequences, the curses that will come upon them for disobedience. Why the unbalance? Paul tells us in Romans 7:14, "The law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin." To keep the law requires the Spirit of God. But we are in the flesh, and we think in material terms rather than understanding the spiritual import of it. So the Lord knew that they would not obey the law, despite their promises, because they were in the flesh, not in the Spirit. We who have received the Spirit of God read the Scriptures that we might understand them spiritually. So let's continue to read Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 36. "The Lord will bring you and the king whom you set over you to a nation which neither you nor your fathers have known, and there you shall serve other gods, wood and stone, and you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations where the Lord will drive you. You shall carry much seed out to the field, but gather little in, for the locust shall consume it. You shall plant vineyards and tend them, but you shall neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. You shall have olive trees throughout all your territory, but you shall not anoint yourself with the oil, for your olives shall drop off. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity. Locusts shall consume all your trees, and the produce of your land. The alien who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall come down lower and lower. He shall lend to you, but you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you and pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded you. And they shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder, and on your descendants forever. Because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and gladness of heart, for the abundance of everything, therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the Lord shall send against you, in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, and in need of everything. And he will put a yoke of iron on your neck, until he has destroyed you. The Lord will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you do not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which does not respect the elderly, nor show favour to the young. And they shall eat the increase of your livestock, and the produce of your land, until you are destroyed. They shall not leave you grain, or new wine, or oil, or the increase of your cattle, or the offspring of your flocks, until they have destroyed you. They shall besiege you at all your gates, until your high and fortified walls in which you trust come down throughout all your land. And they shall besiege you at all your gates, throughout all your land, which the Lord your God has given you. You shall eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom the Lord your God has given you, in the siege and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you. The sensitive and very refined man among you will be hostile toward his brother, towards the wife of his bosom, and toward the rest of his children whom he leaves behind, so that he will not give any of them the flesh of his children whom he will eat, because he has nothing left in the siege, and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, who would not venture to set the sole of her foot on the ground because of her delicateness and sensitivity, will refuse to the husband of her bosom, and to her son and her daughter, her placenta which comes out from between her feet, and her children whom she bears. For she shall eat them secretly, for lack of everything, in the siege and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you in all your gates. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, then the Lord will bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and prolonged plagues, and serious and prolonged sicknesses. Moreover, he will bring back on you all the diseases of Egypt, of which you were afraid, and they shall cling to you. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in this book of the law will the Lord bring upon you until you are destroyed. You shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven in multitude, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. And it shall be that just as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and bring you to nothing, and you shall be plucked from off the land which you go to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you will serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. And among those nations you shall find no rest, nor shall the sole of your foot have a resting place. But the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and anguish of soul. Your life shall hang in doubt before you. You shall fear day and night, and have no assurance of life. In the morning you shall say, "Oh, that it were evening!" And in the evening you will say, "Oh, that it were morning!" Because of the fear which terrifies your heart, and because of the sight which your eyes see. And the Lord will take you back to Egypt in ships, by the way of which I said to you, you shall never see it again. And there you shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. What a horrendous presentation the Lord gives to the children of Israel for their disobedience. And as we look over the last 3,500 years, we see that these things have been fulfilled. The Israelites have been besieged by nation after nation. The Assyrians attacked them, and at that time we learn of a mother eating her children. But the Babylonians came, pulled down the walls and destroyed the city, and pulled down the temple and took away their king. But after 70 years the Lord allowed the people to return, and a few thousand came back. But in those years that followed their return, they were hassled and attacked by their neighbours. They never regained their sovereignty. They were always ruled by the Persians, by the Greeks, by the Romans. And when they rejected Jesus as their Messiah, they were besieged again and destroyed by Titus in AD 70 and exiled to the nations, where they have been hated and maligned time and time again through the centuries. It's fascinating that there are tribal people who do not worship the God of Israel, who do not identify as Jews, and yet they maintain some practices which have a Jewish origin. For our reading said, "You will worship gods that you have not known." They have forgotten that they were Jews because of the fact that they were not allowed to worship the living God. But God knows who are his people. Of course, the story is not over yet, for Revelation tells us that yet again Antichrist, the most severe ruler of all, shall rise against this nation, because they bear the name of God. He will declare himself to be God, and will seek to destroy them. But at that time Israel will call upon the Lord, and the Lord will deliver them. So the judgment on that nation continues, because they have not understood that the law is spiritual, and they have not walked in the ways of the Lord.